Welcome back to our course on Word 2013. In this section we're going to look at views in Word 2013, and basically by that we mean different ways of looking at the document or documents that you're working on. Now, so far in this course we've primarily been using print layout view, and in this view the document or documents we're working on look most like they will if they are printed. There are some alternative views, and each of those alternatives has its own use. Now, a couple of them we can access using the buttons in the bottom right hand corner of the screen and the right hand end of the status bar. If you look down there, you'll see that one of the buttons is actually highlighted at the moment. That's the print layout view. That's the one we're using at the moment. But there are two other buttons down there. One of them is for a new view in Word 2013, which is called Read Mode. And then the one to its right is Web Layout View. Now, in Web Layout View, what you see is most how a page will look if it was displayed as a web page. So if you saw it in a web browser. Now, to the right of these three buttons there is a zoom control. I've mentioned this before. I'm not really going to look at the zoom control just at the moment. I'm going to come back to the zoom control in the next section, and in the section after that I'm going to come back and look at read mode, the new view. So at the moment we're in print layout view. Let's quickly take a look at this document in web layout view. The difference is that we don't get the pagination as though we're printing on a sheet of paper. The text, obviously the content of the text is the same, but in a browser, the way this is now, if you actually published this page as a web page, that is how it would look in a web browser. Now, as I mentioned before, there are a couple of other views as well. If you go to the View tab on the ribbon, you can see two other views. So if you look at the views group on the left of the ribbon, you've got read mode, print layout and web layout, the three we've talked about so far. But there are two other views. One of them is outline view. Again, I mentioned that earlier on. That is a view that you would primarily use with, say, a longer document, although in fact it can be used on any document. But in order for outline view to have any benefit, you need to have a structure to the document, so you need headings and so on, and that's something we're going to come back to later in the course. But basically in outline view you can look at the structure of a document and you can show and hide sections and so on. And then the other view option we've got here is draft view. Now, with draft view, the idea is that a lot of the content, such as graphics, is not shown, and you just get a sort of rough draft of something. This can be quite useful for proofing something. So supposing you're working on a document and it's got lots of text, tables, graphics, all sorts of complicated things in it, but really all you want to do is to be able to read the text and maybe mark up errors in the text. Well, draft view can save you a bit of ink in your printer, save you a bit of reading and navigating your way around by just giving you what is in effect a rough draft of a document. So now I'm going back into print layout view, and I'm going to look at some of the other options on the view tab. In the group to the right of the views group where we have show, in that group we have the option to show the navigation pane, which we looked at earlier in the course, and we also have an option to show ruler and show grid lines. Now, if I select ruler, then I see a horizontal ruler at the top of the document window and a vertical ruler on the left of the document window. These are currently graduated in inches here, but you can graduate them in different units, and you can change the graduation units in Word options. One of the things that you can use the ruler for is to set and unset tabs on the page, but you can also use the ruler for things like aligning items on a page. As you can see, it's very straightforward to switch the rulers on, and it's of course very straightforward to switch them off again. Now, when it comes to aligning items on a page, another very useful feature is the grid lines option here. If I click on grid lines, you get a set of grid lines on the page. These grid lines will not appear if you print the document, by the way, so they're not going to appear on the printed page, but they're really useful for aligning objects. When you come to put any kind of graphics onto the page, they can really help. The setting and unsetting of the spacing of the grid lines is not done via Word options. It's a little bit hidden away, this. If you go to the page layout tab and go over to the right hand group arrange, there's then an option up there, align, and right down the bottom of align there's grid settings. So if you want to change the grid settings, that's where you go for that. So straightforward to show the grid lines and straightforward to switch them off again. Now we're going to come back to zoom in the next section, so I'm going to skip that for now. I'm going to talk very briefly though about the window group. Some parts of the window group are only really relevant when you have two documents open at once. But there are one or two features here that you will find useful, although I won't be going into them in detail on this course. One of them is the split option. If you click on split window, what happens is the window gets split into two parts, and each part is effectively a separate window on the current document. So if I use the scroll bar on the right of the top, I can scroll through the current document, but independently I can scroll through it in the lower window as well. This can be very useful. Let's suppose you were putting in a very long table of data. You could display the header part so that you could remember what appears in each part of the table up here, and then you could actually enter the data in the lower part. Or if you had a reference in the top, perhaps referring to a diagram with 3 or 4 sections, part A, part B, part C, it was difficult to remember which was which and you were writing text about it, you could put the text in the bottom part while you're looking at the diagram itself in the top part. That can be very useful. Most of the rest of it really relates to a situation where you have two documents open and you're switching between the two. And again, that can be very useful if you're comparing documents or if you're using one document to help with another. So by way of a very quick demonstration of that, let me remove the split here. Let me go to Backstage View, Open, and I'm going to open, say, Example 2. So I've now got two documents open. If I now go to switch windows here, little arrow at the bottom, that actually displays the names of the two documents that I'm working on, gives them numbers. One is the one that I've just opened, 2 is the one that was opened before, and then I can just switch between them using that command on the View tab. So in this section we've seen the available views in Word 2013. We didn't really look at read mode, but I'm going to concentrate on that after the next section, and in the next section we're going to look at zoom. So please join me for that.